if they can't beat the Rams both times this season, how are they going to win a division?
Would be interesting if that happened. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he was sacked 5 times. I said, I think Brady's going to crumble.
How about Thomas Brady, Edward Patrick Jr.?
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to episode 7 already of Punt Off here on Ison. We will be joined by John Alcorn in a second, but it's good to have everyone joining in wherever you may be on this Saturday afternoon or evening, wherever you are. You've seen the college games go on so far, some interesting games go on. One thing, if you partied tonight or wherever last night, do not do what Antonio Brown did and do something in the pool, as you have probably seen in the news. We probably need to help him somehow, some way, John. But anyway, here's John Alcorn. And how are you, John?
You know, I'm here in Miami. Thanks to the Miami Dolphins for giving us the freaking dub. So we're just telling, man, we're fine. UT plays West Virginia in an hour, and we play OU next weekend. And OU lost against TCU by 31. So, good day chilling here on the beach with a cigar and a cold one right here. So let's just do the show.
That is some crystal clear water behind you. Unbelievable. Wow. So, anyway, let's get to the Thursday night game that was. And a lot of news came out of it, definitely, but about the game really quick. It was a close game. When I got home, it was, 14-12 at the half. Cincinnati led. And then they ended up getting some interceptions going their way by Von Bell, by Bridgewater and Tua threw him. Mm-hmm. And then Cincinnati went on to tack on 13 late in the fourth there to make it 27-15. The Bengals, so they go to 2-2. Miami goes to 3-1, leaving Philadelphia the only unbeaten team in the league so far. Really quick, Tua Tagovailoa, 110 yards passing before he left the game. 1 pick and 1 sack, of course, and that's when he left the game. Teddy Bridgewater came in, threw for 193 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and no sacks. On the ground for Miami, Mostert had 69 yards. Receiving-wise, it was Tyreek Hill with 160 yards and 10 Edmonds had a run no pick, seeing Tyler Boyd getting some catches. He was finally getting involved in the offense after that throw he made. Joe Mixon on the ground, 61 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. T. Higgins, though, had a really great game. 7 receptions, 124 yards, and 1 touchdown. Hayden Hurst, the backup tight end, also had a touchdown. But one thing I got to mention about the game and Tua Tagovailoa, obviously, it doesn't take, how they say, John, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out stuff. Well, it doesn't take, a medical staff to realize somebody's concussed and it's not just their back or their ankle, that when they're stumbling, that's not the only injury they have. They have a problem with themselves. And then, honestly, it's a game Tua shouldn't have been playing at all, especially, 4 days after the fact he was concussed. And then he got concussed again. I mean, you're talking about serious threats to your life and your livelihood, So I was really surprised they even let him play. I know there was a loophole that they got through. But then the news came out today. What was it? Maybe about a couple of hours ago. The NFLPA terminated the unaffiliated neutral trauma consultant involved in the Tua Tagovailoa concussion evaluation during Week 3, and that's probably the best move that they can do. But I think more investigations will come out within the team. I felt like I know that would have been more of a win for the Bengals, but during the Dolphins and the Tua situation, John.
I believe it's according to either concussion protocol or when someone has a concussion. Not a medical expert at all. At least for the first day or two, you're not supposed to have any screen time. What do they do after you get back onto the plane after being in the hospital? Him and Mike Daniel watch a movie. While that doesn't seem harmless, your body has to readjust, and it's not just about the back. It's not just about the neck or the head. How do I say this? We don't want another RG3. We don't want another Robert Griffin III. This is just like another Shanahan 2.54, where at some point, you also got to look at it like this. Mike McDaniel, regardless of position, has been fired by how many teams? 4 to 5 teams.
Mm-hmm.
You start off the year 3-0, and if you believe in your guy, regardless of the consequences, grow a pair and stick up to the organization. Tyrod Taylor has, I believe, a current lawsuit against the Los Angeles Chargers, or specifically the team doctor. This is not my being a medical claim expert. Even if he was cleared, you don't put him back in the game. Look what happened to RG3. His career was over. I don't care about fantasy. Even though I am fantasy, I was about to pick him up in fantasy. I think it's my second or third string quarterback. I don't care about fantasy. This is about his livelihood, and the Dolphins organization has been known the past 3 years to be scummy. You started in 2019 tampering, talking to Tom Brady, getting to Miami. Sean Payton was going to be your head coach. You try to convince Brian Flores to lose games so you can try to get Brady and get Payton and get better players so you can potentially contend to it and get to a Super Bowl. Your owner is banned for a season. This is what bothers me. It's like, if Mike McDaniel, if this is your team in terms of this is also your franchise quarterback, you don't stick up for him? This is not about wins and losses. I don't care. Like, even though in the game one play well, that's not the point. Congrats to the Bengals. I'll talk about that in a minute. It just makes me so angry. You're basically communicating. We know they don't care about Tua. That saw when you tried to go after Deshaun Watson, when you went to, before that, when after tried to go after Brady, Payton, and after around that time when Payton potentially was going to be the next Cowboys head coach, before Mike McCarthy had a sleepover and had a pillow fight with Jerry Jones. Over and over again. We see even go back about 10 or so years ago when they traded Vernon Davis. How did that work out? Pro Bowl, he had a great career in Indianapolis and retired at halftime. The Miami Dolphins organization has no character. They have no heart. There's a difference between being strict or business is business and be, hey, we don't care about your health. Tua's your guy. You started after year 3-0. You look phenomenal. Your defense looks really good as usual. The running game's kind of get going here and there. And what I don't get, even if you were medically cleared, you forced Tua to stay out of the game. Because this is not just about this year, James, or next season or a couple of years after his career where he could potentially have CTE or potential stuff with his spine or anything else. And we're seeing the effects of guys that have potential CTE and can't test it till they're dead with Antonio Brown, like you talked about. And it's, oh my gosh, that's disgusting. It's so mad. When I first heard about it, we got on the call on the Instagram, and I was like, I was so bad. Not because I'm like, oh, now it's an easier way for the Bengals to win. I don't care about that at that point in time. So far through the first 3 games, 2 is proving wrong. But who in the organization is truly and genuinely thinking, yeah, let's let Tua make his own decisions instead of swallowing their pride, their ego, their bank check, their Instagram followers? Who gives a crap when your quarterback could have potential CTE? Who gives a crap if your quarterback could have issues later in life outside of football? This is bigger than a game of football. I mean, I don't understand how stupid and ignorant and selfish one organization has to be. When is it in? Is it Brady? Is it Sean Payton? Is it Watson? Is it Brian Flores? Is it the owner? Like, at some point, you got about selling the team, or I don't know what's going to happen with the Dolphins, man. But if he even plays this Sunday, I want Mike McDaniel. I want everyone to be fired. This is not based off emotion. This is a guy's health beyond football. Me trying to be right or wrong about Tua. You don't play him on, or is it they play tomorrow, or is it next week?
No, next week.
You don't play Tua next week. Bridgewater played really good.
Mm-hmm.
He's your formidable backup. Ask Sean Payton and Drew Brees. And I just wish I had more to say, man. But it just makes me so mad how selfish and ignorant one organization could be. You're the team that thought trading Vernon Davis was the best solution. You're the team that thought drafting Ryan Tannehill was well. You're the same team that had Adam Gase as your head coach, a dumb freaking organization for the last 5, 10 plus years. It's the same team that couldn't work with Saban before he went to college football. We know the history. Time and time again. It just makes me so mad. And the Dolphins, Mike McDaniel, I think he should be on the hot seat. This is not about wins or losses. This is about you not giving a crap. You can say whatever you want in the media. But according to, I think it's concussion protocol or for medical reasons. I'm not sure. But you're not supposed to have any screen time for the first day or 2. And after that, you should be good to go. You let him on the plane home, and he was watching a movie and had close screen contact. It tells me no one from the head coach, no one from the coordinator, staff, or anyone in the Dolphins truly cares about Tua as a person in his house.
It's very troubling, I would say, and you really don't know where to go from here. I really thought we were, done with all the macho stuff, and we're going to take care of our players. There's a whole movie about that really, concussion that went after the NFL and all the old practices they had. Well, now it just seems like a little bit of that reared its ugly head, and you just know everybody's going to be looking for that during these games this week. They're going to see someone not moving, and right away, I think there's going to be extra precautions made for that player not to play again that game. And I just think we're going to see a real different look about things this week when it comes to player safety.
It's funny how they talk about player safety and concussion protocol and guys not tackling in training camp and having these different types of helmets for certain players in the league, which is absolutely stupid. You talk about practicing what you preach. The NFL talks about player safety, and yet this was allowed. Shanahan didn't get in trouble for RG3 back in 2013. At some point, this is not about me. I do want Tua to succeed in everything he does. But at some point, we know as much as I love the NFL, nobody loves football more than I do, and I will stick to that for the rest of my life. But if you love something, you gotta hold it accountable, no matter how uncomfortable it is. NFL, Roger Goodell, the Miami organization, everyone. Even if he was good to go, you don't put him back in the game. You can't tell me, Roger Goodell and the organization, you care about players' health, and this has happened time and time again. You're telling me in training camp it benefits y'all to not tackle. Really, which leads to ACL tears and injuries and so many other things. You can't tell me. I don't care about PR. We know James PR answers aren't the real answer half the time when it comes to certain situations. I encourage anyone that James said about that movie, Concussion, was really, really good movie. But that's my point, man. And like the NFL can't tell us to care about the players on and off the field when they allow stuff that's happened to AB or others. That's not the NFL's fault. It's the players' fault. But you got to have guys that actually give a flying crap around them. And when you're supposedly starting quarterback long term and your own franchise doesn't care about you, then what? If I'm Tua, James, and I know this would be insane, but if they have him play not tomorrow, but the following Sunday, because I would still be at the beach, I would ask Tua, I would demand a trade this offseason. Because clearly, I don't know what else to say, man. It's just like, have you ever felt about a football topic where you're so mad that like words can't speak generally how you feel?
Well, somehow we're going to try to the league will try to move on and play week 4 games. And this also, these games in Europe, they always bug me, not only because of the morning start times. Out here 6:38, out 8:30 where you are, 9:30 on the East Coast. But it's always like, matchups that really don't matter. And the first game on the Sunday market is the Vikings at the Saints. Well, it's in London, I should say. Vikings are 2-1. Saints are 1-2. Saints looked really bad against the Panthers. Really did bad. Before we get to that, though, really quick, John, I forgot your team, the Bengals. They did look better, like they did against the Jets. But you got more about the Bengals.
I want to get a chance to have my full thing. That's why I took a vacation. That's why I'm here. What I'm here to hang out, have a cigar at the beach, and have a cold one. Because the Bengals beat the freaking Dolphins. And I told you, you need to take an insurance policy out for Eli Apple. I'm not saying Eli Apple saw any of my tweets in the past or the videos, but we know he's the Kevin King of the AFC, and somehow, not in the Super Bowl, not in the playoffs, Eli Apple finally decides to play like a starting cornerback by getting an interception. Now, there were so many concerns, though. The defense giving up plays. Teddy Bridgewater had over 200 yards, and he didn't start the game. The offensive line still needs to clearly be consistent. And I think what we're seeing with my Bengals is that are also playing from behind. And that, honestly, is what's not, I guess, consistently. They can't keep a lead. Have a good lead. Like you see Buffalo destroying teams like LA and so many others. But finally, the Bengals are on 500 because James, it was going to be a really, really long season. If you couldn't beat the Jets, if you couldn't beat the Miami Dolphins, I don't know how you look at it, but I think you look at Zach Taylor getting that contract, didn't deserve it. But it's exciting. My Bengals won, and we're 2-2. We have a 500 record. I'm good, my man. I'm at the beach. I'm just here chilling out, but thank you, Christian, for watching.
Mm-hmm. So that game in Europe in London, Minnesota 2-1, the Saints 1-2. The Vikings defeated they came back and held on against the Lions. Michael Thomas is out with a foot injury for the Saints. Landry is questionable, the other receiver there. Kamara is also questionable with the rib injury. So those are three key players that possibly, one is out, but two that could be out as well. Zadarius Smith, the linebacker for the Vikings, is questionable with his knee injury. That's a long way to fly, too, when you think about it with an injury. I know we were talking about Tua, and the fact that he flew back, I think, with the team after the concussion is kind of puzzling as well. Andrew Booth Jr., the corner for Minnesota, is also doubtful with quadriceps issue. For me, it seems like Miami will win, or not Miami. Miami's been in the news, but Minnesota.
It's okay, I'm at the beach, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Minnesota will probably win this game. Andy Dalton will get the start over Jameis Winston. Winston he has two issues: injuries and the turnover business is booming. Interceptions and fumbles going on for Jameis Winston. But anyway, I got the Vikings in this game in Europe. It's always a game that I think players dread doing because of the flight, because of the time difference, the days lost, let's just say. For the fans, it's also kind of a nuisance having to get up early to watch your team, I think. Anyway, I got Minnesota defeating New Orleans. What do you think about this international game?
I guess Terry Bradshaw was kind of right in some sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, for unforeseen circumstances of injuries and others. But, I guess there's a saying out there, James, that all redheads stick together. That this and that. Screw it. Screw the redhead. I'm picking them. I almost said the Miami Vikings. Oh my God, I'm so tired. It's been a crazy week. Oh my God.
Miami Vikings.
No, the Miami Viking Jets. Oh my God. Focus. Been up since 5 a.m. All right, but happy to be here. Always. The Vikings, though. I know that the Dalton. There's a reason why he's been on 3 teams. He was the backup in Dallas for a short while in 2020. I mean, dude, defense-wise, the Saints got a little bit of an upper edge, but I think you go back to I don't know if Kamara is fully healthy, but I think they had to get the running game going early. When you see him play Minnesota back in can't remember what era, Alvin Kamara had 6 to 7 rushing touchdowns in that game early on in his career, but they're going to have to get the running game going early because, with Andy Dalton, while he is a quarterback, while he does have experience, he has a very limited skill set. He's very limited at what he can do. So you're going to have to rely on more on Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. Maybe some screen passes or passes that are at least 5 to 6 to maybe 7 yards. And so you're not going to get like a Michael Thomas downfield for 40 to 50 yards. So if you're the Vikings of this, you really need to get pressure to Andy Dalton real quick. It's not like Andy Dalton is known for his great pocket presence. It's not like Andy Dalton is known for being great out of the pocket. I mean, how many playoff wins does he have? Oh, wait, he never appeared in the playoff game. It was actually another quarterback who's with the Texans, I believe, right now. So I think for the Vikings, it's really going to come up to knowing the limits of Andy Dalton and exposing those, I think, is really going to be key for them. But Andy Dalton is going to have a Jimmy G or less type game, unlike the Sunday Night Football game for sure.
So we got a couple of comments here. Christy Wilson, of course, joining us. Hi, Christy. She also says, I just hope what happened to Tua on Thursday night doesn't happen to anybody else. And I think we can all agree with her with that because now you're just, I don't know, you're just begging to have the game being changed the way that I think a lot of doctors and medical people really want. She also says she doesn't care about the London games unless the Cowboys are playing. And also she says, by the way, the Cowboys have only played one London game. I think it was in 2014. And I don't recall whom it was against. But it just goes to show you they don't really bring the popular teams to London, and if they ever do, like I think the Packers go somewhere out there, but they play against an inferior opponent and someone really unpopular. But the fact that the most marketable team in the league only went once, the Cowboys, that's kind of, telling that.
I think it's funny. I think it's funny how I wonder if they're doing this. They're doing it with piss poor teams on purpose to try and test something for the future, because you don't. And I could be wrong. I don't have any sources or anything on this. You don't, by accident, put the teams that are in contention for a number one overall pick or a top 5 pick to get a top quarterback or offensive line receiver, whatever, to play in London. To me, there has to be a reason behind it. It's not because they're great teams, like you said, or the Jaguars played many games in London. But maybe I think it could be a test for something. I don't know, because it's certainly not for viewership. It's certainly not to benefit other people out there in the community or fans or players. But at some point, is it a test for something? Like, I don't get it. Like, to me, and I don't speak for James because can't read James' mind, but I think the London games are really kind of pointless. Like, yes. I get, like, you want some people that are, like, people that live all over the world to go to a game, and I get that, and I'm all for that. But, like, what's the point? There's no value to it. It's not like if these two teams, whoever win this game, gets, like, the last wild card spot in, like, a football playing tournament, which doesn't exist. I feel like the NFL London games are just like the Pro Bowl. Yeah. Neither of them matter. Neither of them have any value. Just like the Minnesota Vikings, because I picked them to beat the Saints, because I can't. Redheads don't stick together. I don't care what any redhead has told you over time, but I will be picking the Vikings. But the London game, the Pro Bowl, all that doesn't matter. The MVP award really doesn't matter. You can talk about it more and more all you want, but what's the point? It doesn't help either team get a better pick or get a better player or anything. Why are we doing these London games unless you're going to talk about an expansion or a different league of some sorts? I don't get it. I think it's absolutely boring, just like the Pro Bowl, but that's just my opinion on that one.
And that game, by the way, on NFL Network, not on network television, that also doesn't help. I think you would get a morning crowd if that's on CBS or Fox or NBC, whatever the case is. But again, let's go stateside. First game that I have is Cleveland at the Falcons in Atlanta. Cleveland 2-1, and the Falcons at 1-2. The Falcons got their first win last week against Seattle. Really played well offensively somehow. Cleveland doing well with the running game with Nick Chubb, and I expect that to continue. You throw in Kareem Hunt and Amari Cooper, if everything went well, they probably do it again. And they beat a Steeler team on Thursday Night Football, so they had some time off to really see what they did well. For me, I'm going to go with Cleveland. I think all of that continues for them. What do you think about Cleveland at Atlanta?
You're going to do something risky, something most people think I wouldn't do. I'm picking the Falcons to win this game. It's going to be an ugly one. We both know both quarterbacks don't necessarily add a lot of value. Thank you. But I just that when you look at both teams, they don't have a long-term answer. You know these situations with Deshaun Watson. You know the situations with, like, Mariota, and what are you going to do with Desmond Ridder? He hasn't necessarily been talked about. It's just a matter of time. You don't necessarily have any strengths with the Atlanta Falcons, or something that they do really well. The Cleveland Browns have a elite running duo with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They have a really very talented defense in Denzel Ward, Richard Williams, Myles Garrett. Thank God him and his friend are okay after that car accident. Then you have, if he's healthy, Jadeveon Clowney playing the game. They have a phenomenal, talented defense when healthy. Nick Chubb is in, if not the most efficient running back in the NFL since he was drafted in 2018, I believe, out of Georgia. But they have a better running core, better defensive line, better passing attack. I just think that I think the Falcons are going to build some momentum on that, but I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm going to pick one game a week where I know most likely I'm going to be wrong. Whether it is a tiny chance that the Falcons win this game, so I'm going to have to pick them. I mean, Mariota's going to. You're going to have at some point, even if I'm wrong, you have to use Kyle Pitts. You have to use Drake London. You have Cordell Patterson. Like, why are you not using those guys you drafted top 5, top 10, maybe top 15? At some point, you know this is a rebuild team. You know they're not necessarily going anywhere. But I think they're going to build on that momentum for this game. But overall, I mean, they're still, I believe, going to have a losing record this year.
By the way, the Falcons, Cordell Patterson is questionable with his knee injury. Seems like he does everything for him except play defense. Myles Garrett is out with his shoulders and bicep from the car accident.
Ooh, that could be really good then. Because Myles Garrett is on the outside. He's not in the box. So you can't see what I'm doing with this laser pointer. But let's say you can see what I'm trying to, if I can get it to work. Okay, you can't see it, but pretend it's there. Myles Garrett's to the left. Let's say Myles Garrett, pretend it's to my left. Myles Garrett is here. He's going to get pressure from the outside. But now that Myles Garrett's not playing in the game, so David McClowney is in the box over here. Then you have Gritty Williams and Denzel Ward. So that could free up some plays to get Drake London a couple of catches, to get Kyle Pitts some key on second and third down. It's going to favor the Falcons on certain plays for their offense because not having Myles Garrett on that inside or outside to pressure the quarterback and to get those certain key defensive stops. I mean, that really helps. I wish him nothing, his friend, the health on that because I saw that. Like, dude, they were lucky to be alive. But without having Myles Garrett to pressure the outside or in the box, I mean, that to me that favors the Falcons in terms of you have to give Drake London and Kyle Pitts the ball. If both of them, if Kyle Pitts and Drake London have a combined 15 catches, the Atlanta Falcons, deserve to lose this game.
That's true. Next game is a NFC East matchup. You got the Washington Commanders at 1-2, and how about them Cowboys at 2-1? Second place in the NFC East. The Commanders in last place in the NFC East. The injury reports so far: Charles Leno Jr. is questionable shoulder injury. They also have a guard that's out with a concussion. Dalton Schultz is questionable. They're tied in with a knee injury. And then Connor McGovern is also questionable. He's a guard with an ankle injury. Javon Curse is also questionable with a knee injury. One of their big-time defensive players, one of their safeties. I still think Dallas, I think they'll ride the momentum of that Monday game and beat another divisional foe here. I just can't wait till they play the Eagles. You know, I'm just waiting for that matchup to happen.
Ooh.
I'm going to go with Dallas for sure. I just think the running game with Pollard is starting to go, and you throw in Elliott, who's been doing well. Washington, it just seems like they're going through the motions. Carson Wentz is just not good. And I think somebody else mentioned it, but it's what I thought. I want to see more of Taylor Heinicke. I thought he was going to be something and someone, but they keep passing on him. They went for the big money play with Carson Wentz, but I thought Heinicke should have been the starter all these years instead of messing around, you know, bringing in other guys, just not working for Washington. I want to see Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin have a good game, but Dallas's defense, Diggs got his first pick, and it won't be his last this year. Their defense, you got Michael Parsons is awesome. CeeDee Lamb, he avenged himself after that one drop. He did catch some other touchdowns, had a one-handed catch by the Cowboys in the game. So I'm going to go with Dallas and against Washington. What do you think, John?
If this may sound very contradicting, but I think Diggs is either going to be the reason why they win or why they lose. I think he's very, very good, but he's also very, very overrated in some categories because last year, and this is also to this year too, where yes, you got a lot of interceptions, but you also gave up a lot of yards and a couple of touchdowns last year. So I don't we ignore one side and only talk about what we do like. But if we're gonna be football people, we have to talk about both sides. He could be the reason why they lose this game. Now, guaranteed, McLaurin is a phenomenal player. The last 2 years, he's had over 150 receptions and over 2,100 yards. How many different quarterbacks has he played with? The last 3 seasons. He's been in the league, obviously, because we just started 2022. He's averaging over 3,000 yards. And he's averaging, let's say, 16. So let's say 3 to 4 plus touchdowns a year and over 1,000 yards with so many different quarterbacks. Now, obviously, the running game is without a shadow of a doubt on the Dallas Cowboys side. Quarterback-wise, if you look at Carson Wentz, you are right about him. I was just looking him up. Last week against Philly, you had 211 yards. No touchdowns and 0 picks is like Washington's Super Bowl appearances in the past 23 years. It's tough, man, because I don't like the Cowboys. I want to wear my hat and say, how about the Dallas Cowboys? But I just can't bet against them in this game. It's not because they're this top team in the league and people say, oh, I want to look at Cooper Rush's stats while I'm at here, too, because I want to say nothing. I want to say the truth. People act like Cooper Rush is just a really, really good player. They're trying to rush Dak Prescott back, but Cooper Rush is playing a type of football that the Niners needed Jimmy Garoppolo to play. Nothing flashy, nothing great. Still has a KPR above 90 in the past 2 games. Throwing for over 200 yards and having a touchdown. Not throwing a ton of passes, but also not making any risky throws, not having any interceptions. And you're saying that. Well, the stats may only show in the past 2 games, 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the type of game they need Cooper Rush to do because there's a lot less pressure for them to throw the football a lot. Because with Dak, you have that contract. You paid Zeke. With Cooper Rush, you barely paid, $1 million or less. So let him play what Jimmy G has to do with the Niners. And I think James and I both agree. We want to see Tony Pollard. We want to see the potential chemistry between Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. I think at some point, sooner or later, Ezekiel Elliott could be replaced. I think it's that rookie. I can't remember his name. Chance Brown or something. I can't remember. Blanking on it. Phenomenal player. Could replace Ezekiel Elliott. Not just financially because he's cheaper, more production. But honestly, Christy, I expect a gift basket in the mail, a Christmas card, a HEB gift card, the works. Because I don't know why. Maybe because I'm tired. Or I don't know. But I can't believe I'm saying it. I'm saying it, James. I can't believe I'm saying this word. I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys to win this game. Carson Wentz is so unpredictable. The Eagles made the right move. He's so much better. I say so much better. They have the team around him, just like they did with Wentz, but injuries was led to him having those interceptions. And I'll give Cooper Rush credit, though. He's played really well, and just as they need him to. This is not because I'm so high on the Cowboys. They're going to win a division. It's going to be the Eagles, but I stick my Cowboys winning division pick because I can't switch on my picks. I'm not going to switch on anything, just like Trisha Thompson does his girlfriend every other day. But honestly, man, I picked the Cowboys. Defense-wise, Michael Parsons, though, is going to be the factor because Washington – I don't even know if they have Chase Young. One of your other guys, Ryan Kerrigan's on the sidelines as like a coordinator or helper for Washington. Dallas has a better interior defensive line. They have the better running attack. They better utilize it, and they're more healthy right now. Even if Schultz doesn't play, Brown played really well last week and played better than CeeDee Lamb up until later in the game. With CeeDee Lamb, but the problem is with CeeDee Lamb is Christian knows he doesn't make the easy catches, but when it's time to make those really difficult ones, he's like, "Boosh, I got it." So Brown and Lamb. I think one of your other receivers potentially could play tomorrow, but I picked Dallas healthy running game, Terry defensive line, and Chrissy. I expect a gift basket in the mail because for some reason I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know why. No, I'm feeling okay. I don't have a headache or anything, but I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys to win this football game against the Washington Commanders.
All right, next game is a pair of 1-2 teams, Seattle at Detroit. Seattle coming off that loss against the Falcons. Lions coming off that loss. They had the lead, blew the game against the Vikings like I thought would happen. I thought, well, they're not ready yet to win those type of games. And in that loss, the Lions have a lot of injury concerns coming into this week's game against Seattle. DeAndre Swift is out with the ankle and shoulder injury. Austin Seibert, their kicker, is out with a right groin injury. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, their right receiver, has kind of broke out this year, is out with an ankle injury. Josh Reynolds and DJ Shark Jr. are also questionable with ankle injuries. So when you think about it, that's like their whole offense, John, is out with Detroit almost, or questionable. It's really, really tough. But the way that Seattle looked, and I know they put up some points. They got Metcalf involved and a little bit with Lockett. Geno Smith is still, the starting quarterback, and he looked okay. He looked fine. But that's a lot of injuries when you talk about Detroit. You're just hoping that running game with Perry does well with Seattle. I'm still going to go with the Lions. I wondered Shark and Reynolds, I think they'll still both play. But without St. Brown there, those two are going to have to be real dependable. And for Jared Goff to get going, you look for Williams, the backup running back now starting there. He's going to have to be well. He's going to have to do so much more. I'm still going with the Lions. It won't probably be a high-scoring game. What do you think about Seattle at Detroit?
It's funny because, Detroit lost most of their offense due to injury. The Seattle Seahawks has no offense because they don't have any playmakers. Even if you did, you don't have a starting franchise quarterback. I picked Detroit, and the funny thing about Detroit, or more importantly, Jamal Williams, when he got penalized this past week for $13,000 for that little dance he did in the end zone. It's absolutely hilarious. And again, that's not really a fine. That money goes to charity. But again, I just thought that was funny that what he did, and rightfully so. You have no problem celebrating. Detroit's going to get their second win on the year. We know where Seattle is. They don't have any players to be like, okay, here's where we go from here into the offseason, how to address the draft and free agency. Or Detroit, they have St. Brown long term. They're getting their offensive line. They drafted the guy out of he drafted a young offensive lineman. Jeff Okudah is bouncing back this season. After meeting Andrew Riddle the first 2 years out of Ohio State, I believe it was second or fourth overall pick. He's playing really well. He's getting a lot better. He's on the rise. He could become a player of the year. I'm not saying he will, but he's playing a lot better. I think Detroit has a much better team. And yes, I know with St. Brown, those guys that are going to be out, but you can see Jamal Williams having over 120 yards of total offense. But I'm going to have to pick Detroit in this game. And as Eminem has in a song, it's Detroit versus everybody. But Detroit is going to win this football game.
Next game up, you got a AFC South divisional battle. And both, I think, are just trying to pump themselves up. It's Tennessee at Indianapolis. Tennessee, of course. What did they do? I forget. They lost, I believe, to I forget whom, but they lost last week, so they're 1-2. Indianapolis, surprise of the world, defeating the Kansas City Chiefs. Their record is picket fences 1-1-1. I'm trying to think of the injury list. You have, Tennessee with Kyle Phillips, their receiver, questionable. Amani Hooker is out with the concussion injury. One of their safeties, Zach Cunningham, is out with the elbow. Hollister, one of the receivers, has a questionable status with a back injury. But with the Colts, and you saw Shaq Leonard, he was out last week. His back is still hurting him. He's questionable. And DeForest Buckner is questionable with elbow injury. Oh, that's right. How could I forget? Tennessee defeated the Raiders. Duh. I think you're going to have a steady dose of Derrick Henry in this game for Tennessee. Ryan Tannehill is going to try to make plays with his feet. We'll see about if Leonard plays and Buckner. If those two aren't, you could definitely see Tennessee having a real good chance in this game. I'm going to write Tennessee. I think Tennessee's going to win this game. I just feel like the Colts right now, they got lucky, being the Chiefs, even though they surprised a lot of people. They didn't look really good doing it. They had their tight end catching 2 touchdowns, who rarely catches anything. Jonathan Taylor didn't have a good game. Tight end defense can step up. They have the capability. I'm going to go with Tennessee. What do you think about Tennessee and Indy?
Well, this is probably the crappiest game tomorrow because it's weird with the Colts and Jonathan Taylor because you either underutilize him and he has a ton of yards per carry but doesn't have a lot of yards, no touchdowns, 1 touchdown of the year. First one against Houston, you tied at that with Lovie Smith being a puppet for the Houston Texans. Or you give him a lot of carries and he averages 3.4 yards per carry against the Chiefs, like you said. So that clearly either it was that rushing attack or Jonathan Taylor not getting the ball forward. The offensive decision-making for the Colts is the weirdest thing I am seeing in the National Football League this year outside of the Denver Broncos. Jonathan Taylor has 61 attempts on the year so far, so that's averaging, let's say, average 16, 17, maybe 18 attempts per game. But he had 31, all right, 5 yards per run, then 9 attempts, then 21. So it's like up, down, Gigi Costa's up, down, up, down. Which Jonathan Taylor are you going to get? Either because of the offensive game plan or he's not being consistent or not seeing the defensive game plan. Are you getting the one that's going to get 5 yards a carry, 120 yards? Yeah, had a 100-yard game since week 1 against Houston, and that was a tie. You have to win this game with Jonathan Taylor. Looking at Derrick Henry, I think he's a really good player, but at some point, you can't run that offense around him. I'll tell anyone, you can never run an offense with your running back being your bread and butter and expect to win a Super Bowl. And it just drives me crazy. And Derrick Henry, you want to guess how many total yards he has on the year through the first 3 games? Rushing yards. I'll give you one guess.
420.
192.
No way.
No joke. And so this is why I'm not picking Tennessee. Because if you're bread and butter, again, I know it's not contrary about Thomas, specifically Tennessee, how they run their offense the past couple of years. If you're game planning as Derrick Henry as your bread and butter, knowing your best weapon is Robert Woods, who's injury prone, and a rookie who can't even play, you're gonna have nothing. I'm sorry. Last year, injury riddled, 4.3 yards per carry. Yes, he had 10 touchdowns. This year, he's averaging 3.6 yards per carry, 54 attempts, and less than 200 rushing yards on the season. And it's literally like this defense is figuring them out. And you see, as I've seen these first couple of games and highlights, yeah, he'll get some runs here and there, but overall it's like 3 or 4 yards. They'll stop him. Or they'll stop. Defenses are figuring it out. This offense is bland. It's basic. It's boring. It's decaf coffee. That's what their offense is. If you don't have Derrick Henry being the bus like Jerome Bettis was for the Steelers, you're not going to get anything going. Ryan Tannehill is a fraud. Your team was down so bad despite having the king. Derrick Henry's the king. He's the king of this offense. Why haven't they been to a Super Bowl? If he's so great as he is. He has less than 200 yards in the year, so if you want to average, then break that down even more, which is why I'm picking the Colts, because of this very reason. How their both offenses are bland, I get it. But I would trust, I say trust, like it's like this much of Matt Ryan over Ryan Tannehill. Again, that bar for me is really not that much of a difference. He's 192 yards. Mm-hmm. He's averaging 64 yards rushing per game in the first 3 games. Like, how are you going to – I understand that Leonard and those guys are not necessarily going to be 100% or even playing, but if NFL defenses are figuring Derrick Henry and this offense out, what does Tennessee have? Like, another reason I'll pick my other point here with Ryan Tannehill. I want to make sure I'm saying these stats right because we want to give the real news, not the fake sports news. Ryan Tannehill has 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions on the year with less than 650 passing yards. And this is a team that's going to beat the Colts. I get there's like obviously both quarterbacks are not great. They're misusing Jonathan Taylor. But teams are figuring out Derrick Henry. We don't know what the offense is going to be with the Colts moving forward outside when Matt Ryan is gone. Both quarterbacks haven't really played great whatsoever. In the last 2 games, Ryan Tannehill has 1 touchdown to 3 interceptions with 381 passing yards. He's playing worse than Jimmy G. He's playing worse than Cooper Rush. Ryan Tannehill in the last 2 games is playing worse than Cooper Rush. Just put that into perspective. Thank you. Case is closed. I picked the Colts to win by 4.
Okay, next game you got the 2-1 Bears who defeated the Houston Texans at home in Chicago. You have the Giants who are also 2-1 who lost to Dallas at home. 2 teams definitely with quarterback issues, I would say. The Giants have a hard time keeping Daniel Jones upright. He had no time against the Cowboys to get out of the pocket, it seemed like. With the Bears, you have Justin Fields, who is not on a record tear, let's just say, the opposite way. But the running game is going well for the Bears, at least. That's what's winning their games. That and the defense, when you think about it. And that's how the Bears have been in their history when you think about it. This game in New Jersey, by the way, the Bears is going to have a hit with the injuries. David Montgomery, the running back, is out with the ankle and knee injury. That means more is going to be put on the rookie running back. And I'm blanking on his name. Hilbert. Yeah, Hilbert. Carlos Santos is questionable, but it's not injury-related. He's the kicker that has been really good for the Bears as well. Ryan Griffin, their tight end, is doubtful with an Achilles injury. Robert Quinn, their defensive end, is questionable with an illness. So right now the Bears are kind of hurting there. For the Giants, you have Kadarius Toney is out with a hamstring injury like he was Monday. Leonard Williams, who they really need on the defensive line for the Giants, is out with a knee injury. And I really wanted to get your take, John, before we get into the game pick. But Sterling Shepard, you saw the way that game ended for him. He tore his left ACL just running on that MetLife turf. And I was thinking about it. What was it, in 2020 on the same turf? Nick Bosa got hurt, and I think a plethora of other guys got hurt on that turf, just running. And I know there's been speculation of Odell Beckham Jr., who had that issue last year on field turf in LA, and the Super Bowl had a problem, and he's trying to come back from that. But what do you think about field turf? Do you think they should get rid of it and everybody have grass? I know it's harder to maintain. It's easier to have field turf. But what do you think about the rate of injuries and then the way that they happen, where they're contactless? Should the NFL get rid of field turf?
100%, because this is not about easier or it's more it's easier to maintain. The NFL has money. Guys can just hire some more people for cheaper, and you can get the job done. I'm not saying it's easy, but that's what's just what you're gonna have to do. It's not like you're not used to setting up for games like they do in London, and which the transformation is crazy. That to me, if it was just one player, okay, then maybe I wouldn't have the opinion I'm about to have. But if Odell's had the issue, you had another player that's had the issue in 2020, and now you have Sterling Shepard, who I say he's one of their best receivers, but that's not necessarily saying a lot, and I feel really terrible for him. But I think this offseason you really need to evaluate, not just for MetLife Stadium, but for stadiums all around in football and other leagues. Do your research. If guys are getting injured, something needs to change. This is not about if convenience for the NFL means risking players' health, then I don't want it. It is to be the exact opposite. Where even if it's not completely convenient for the league, because again, the league's fine, they have money, I don't sympathize with them whatsoever. Players' health matters. You're about players' health, as we just talked about with Tua, right? National Football League, Roger Goodell, all those hypocrites in the front office. You're about players' health, right? So if you're going to be, I'm going to put my camera right here on me. If you're about players' health, then you need to do something about that this offseason. But it's unfortunate for a man. I'm not saying he's going to have like a Pro Bowl year, but you really hate to see that because the Giants have really struggled with injuries these past couple of seasons, especially considering Danny Jones being sacked. I will tell you the number in a couple of minutes, but man, it's unfortunate, but they definitely need to do something about it because it's not just about MetLife. But honestly, when you do make the change, which I believe they have to, I would do some test runs or something to make sure before they started the 2023 season that everything is good to go.
So for the game pick, this is going to probably be an ugly game, to be honest, but I'm going to go with the Giants. I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a good day running. Although against the Bears, he might find tough sledding at first, or they'll try to get him on the screen pass. The Bears defense won't get to the quarterback as much as the Cowboys will. Chicago, I think, is going to struggle being one-dimensional. Justin Fields right now is really struggling. So I'm going to go with the Giants in this game against the Bears. What do you think?
Use Justin Fields in the red zone. Daniel Jones has been sacked 13 times already. Ouch. He's only played 3 games. And this is a stat I think someone said. The New York Giants, I'm not saying football Giants because they're playing like a bunch of flag football wusses. Since 2016, 2017, or right around those couple of years, the New York Giants have drafted 6, 7, or 8 different offensive linemen outside of that one trade from New England. And all of them have been bust. Eric Flowers, does that kind of ring a bell for football fans or New York Giant fans or offensive line fans for the National Football League? He's been sacked 13 times. No matter who the New York Giants are going to draft, they still can't protect the quarterback. 6 to 7 or plus different offensive linemen in the past 6 years plus or so, and you still can't protect your quarterback. That's why I'm picking against the Giants. And yes, I agree with you, James. It's going to be 100% an ugly game with all the injuries. But Daniel Jones is one of the most sacked quarterbacks since he's came into the league. I'm not defending Daniel Jones. I'm not saying he's their guy. But to a certain extent, if I'm going to say this about Brady or Breeze or any other quarterback in the National Football League, it doesn't matter how great you are as their franchise quarterback. If that team cannot protect you, you're not going to succeed. And that's exactly what it is with Daniel Jones. Does Daniel Jones have a high ceiling? No, he absolutely does not. He's nearly tripped on his feet 3 times this season. But obviously, Dallas Cowboys, as you saw, Micah Parsons in that defensive line exposed it. But Daniel Jones being a top set quarterback, since he came into the league in Oh my gosh, excuse me. Since 2019, I really don't see how the Giants are going to win this game. The Bears, if they do get in the red zone, they're going to have to use Fields because you don't have Herbert. Like I said, you don't have Montgomery. Fields is really going to have to improvise. He's going to have to. He would have to have some like empty yards on play, like do some screen passes, or don't try to do like these play action or down the field throws because yeah, you maybe have Mooney, but you don't necessarily have anyone to throw to. Like how he played last week, I get he has not played well this year whatsoever. He's played like crap. But to a certain extent, they have hardly anyone protecting him. He has no one to throw to. But Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears versus who they're playing. And the New York Giants, who Daniel Jones has been sacked 13 times. Daniel Jones, I believe, has been sacked more times than Justin Fields. I don't pick the Bears to win for that very reason. But I'm not saying it'll be as ugly as that Sunday Night Football game. That one, obviously, with the Broncos and Niners. But it could be very similar. It's not even going to be 30 points total altogether in that game. Definitely going to be ugly, but I'm going to pick against the Giants because Daniel Jones has been sacked 13 times in 3 games.
Okay, so one of the most, I think, interesting games coming up this week. Jacksonville at 2-1, going to Philadelphia to face the Eagles, who are 3-0. Of course, Jacksonville coming off the easy win against the Chargers in Southern California. And then Philadelphia defeating Washington there. In Washington, 24-8, Jacksonville 38-10. These games is pretty good. This game is going to be the Jaguars are first in interceptions with 6. The Eagles are 6th with 4. So I think that's really good. Both have a really good offense. More so the Eagles. Both are top 10 in points scored. Both have, it seems like, endless weapons when you think about Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, A.J. Brown on one side for Philly. You have Trevor Lawrence, James Robinson, and Christian Kirk for the Jags. One thing about the injuries. Shaquille Griffin is questionable with a hip injury. Zay Jones, who played a big role in the Jaguars win last week, is questionable with the ankle injury. Boston Scott will be out with ribs injury. Their running back. I think that's going to be difficult to get the running game going. Avonte Maddox, the corner, will be out for Philadelphia as well with the ankle injury. This game is pretty tough, but I'm going to go with Philadelphia. I think they keep the good times rolling. They go to 4-0. But I hope Jacksonville stays in the game and somehow, tries to outscore them. I think that's the only way they can do it. But I think Philly's defense is going to get to Lawrence at the right time, make him throw when he doesn't want to. So I'm going to go with Philadelphia. What do you think about Jacksonville at Philadelphia?
Did you say Travis Etienne or Jameis Robinson were out for this game?
No. Boston Scott for Philadelphia.
Okay. The Eagles are going to have their first loss of the season.
Ooh.
I think just the culture alone with the Jaguars is something positive. Because when we've talked about the Jacksonville Jaguars and their culture and the team locker room and everything else the past couple of years in Jacksonville, everything has came out, it has been toxic as a group of middle school girls. We've been in middle school, we've been in high school. That can be very toxic. That's what the Jacksonville Jaguars organization was. We saw it last year with Meyer. We saw it with Marone. We saw it with Tom Coughlin. So many guys over the years. Just toxic. Doug Peterson comes in, has a great heart. Seems like a really good dude. Seems like a really good man. It's establishing this different type of culture. I get 100% what you're saying. With the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts has played really well. I believe I'll have to look at his numbers here in just a second. But he's definitely, what's the word? When you believe in your quarterback and put the right weapons around. Dude, I'm telling you, like, we're continuing to say this. Even if it doesn't show up on the numbers, when the Philadelphia Eagles traded for A.J. Brown, that cemented their banner for winning the NFC East. Even though I picked the Dallas Cowboys, I'm sticking to it. I just think when you look at the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence has had a complete transformation. Even though they've addressed it and got some players, and we were questioning like you're getting Christian Kirk, you're paying the guy $70+ million for his second and third string receiver for the Arizona Cardinals with Isabella and Rondell Moore and Hopkins and Ertz and Connor and that running back that is with Miami now. That was absolutely insane. But the last 2 games, Trevor Lawrence has over almost 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. Unless he's had 6 touchdowns, 1 pick on the year so far. He's averaging almost 300 yards plus and 3 touchdowns and 2.5, 3 touchdowns a game. Has 1 pick on the year versus Washington. Didn't have any picks against the Colts. Didn't obviously have any picks against the Chargers. The last 2 games, he's had over 150 plus in QBR rating with $2.62 and 3 touchdowns. I get with the Eagles, and I want to look at Jalen Hurts too because I want to make sure I say these numbers are 100% correct because we want to actually be prepared. Unlike the New England Patriots with Mac Jones this year, Jalen Hurts on South game has played really well, played just a little bit better. It'd be tough, but I think I'm going to stick with my pick. I think Jalen Hurts is going to play really well. It's going to come down to a 3rd or 4th down play, but I think with Trevor Lawrence, has a much better arm or a better arm than Jalen Hurts in this game. I think we could potentially see the effects of that. But I do pick the Jaguars. I know they're 2-0 in the last 2 games, but I mean, anything could happen. But I still pick the Jacksonville Jaguars to win this game.
By the way, Doug Peterson coming back to coach against his former team, who he led the Super Bowl with in 2017-18. That's going to be interesting, and how the fans treat him. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I believe so.
You know what he should do? I feel like if they boo him, just bring a copy of the book with you on the plane and just show him the book as you're coming into the stadium. But hey, look, and show this ring and a certain finger. Like, look what I got. Look what I got. Look what I did for y'all. Just as like a fun little thing to back at the fans.
You know what, though, too? I think Jalen Hurts wants to prove Peterson wrong. Remember what happened in week 17 in 2020, how they benched Jalen Hurts and put in, I think, Soulfield or whomever it was. I think Jalen Hurts wants to prove Peterson there. And he has so far, but in his face, I think, this game. Next game, both teams really need a win. It's the Jets at the Steelers. Both are 1-2. Steelers didn't look well Thursday night against the Browns. The Jets did not look well against your Bengals. Both got Ohio'd very bad. You can definitely tell the Steelers are really missing TJ Watt defensively. I know it's only one man, but that one man does so much for the Steelers defensively.
100%.
And for the offense, Mitchell Trubisky, I think people are really calling for Kenny Pickett. This might be the game he gets replaced. I really think if Trubisky doesn't do well against the Jets defense, I think they're going to make the switch, in the second quarter or halftime, whatever the case may be. For the Jets, I think it's still Joe Flacco going for him. We want to see Zach Wilson play, but he's not ready yet. And from that preseason injury. So for me, I think the Steelers still win, but I think it's going to be an ugly affair and one where you might see Kenny Pickett break out and play and do well. I know Flacco's going to try to channel his old Ravens self and try to defeat the Steelers, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. What do you think about Jets at the Steelers?
I think Zach Wilson will be playing tomorrow.
Oh, he is? Okay.
It was last minute, and because I was just looking this out to make sure before I said it because I didn't want to put my foot in my mouth because then I'll get hands, foot, and mouth, all that. How do I say this? I'll talk about from the Steelers' point first. I'm not saying it's all on Trubisky, but Matt Canada, terrible offensive play calling.
Mm-hmm.
If that's going to automatically change, who is this offense set for? I 100% get it. He was at Pitt. He's been at the same practice facility. He's probably had practices with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers and everything else that just isn't caught on camera. He's probably had experience with it. I get it. But James, that big but, B-U-T. I'm picking the Jets.
Woo!
Because I think Zach Wilson has something to prove. Because he hasn't played at all this year. Your first 3 games of your rookie year last year, you had a worse 3-game start than Josh Rosen did in 2018. We got benched for Sam Bradford, and we know the whole story about Sam Bradford. I don't know where he's disapproved to. I guess he's off the grid. Haven't heard from him since he got cut from the Cardinals. But he's going to have something to prove. I guess you got Corey Davis. You got those players. I get who you're playing. The Steelers have a really, really, really good team. Cam Hayward, one of those guys on the defensive front. But I think when you have I'm not saying it's going to happen. When you have a sudden sense of urgency, you're going to want to be able to play well. Because what happens after the season, if your head coach is potentially on the hot seat and gets fired this offseason, but you play really well, then your job is good for the next 2 or 3 years plus. But if you don't play well in this game and the rest of the season, and your head coach gets fired or potentially on the hot seat, your future in New York is without a doubt in trouble because he could be prone to more injuries and he's played more off the field than on the field, but he's going to have something to prove. I don't think it'd be that, especially if Mitchell Trubisky is playing and how a lot of people are blaming everything on Trubisky, which I think is extremely ignorant because it's easy to hate on one play. Again, I'm not a Mitchell Trubisky fan, but I think the offensive play call, I think is that Matt Canada or whoever the OC is. I mean, he's not playing great. 1 touchdown, 1 pick in the last 2 games. I get it. But at the same time, when you look at – I'm looking at the AFC North. Now, if you were 6, 7, 8 games into the season and y'all were in the last place, yeah, you put Kenny Pickett in. But as it stands, you're only 1 game behind for first place. The Browns, Ravens, and Bengals are all tied for first place with 2 wins on the season. I don't understand what is the panic and frustration. This is what separates the men from the boys. When you panic in a situation, instead of calling mommy and daddy for help, you try to figure it out first, figure it out like an adult. The Steelers are 1-2. The sky is not falling. This is not made the Robin. This is not the little chicken where the sky is falling. The sky is falling. You're gonna be just fine. You're 1-2. But I picked the Jets in this game because I think Zach Wilson definitely has something to prove because Zach Wilson has done nothing in his NFL career. Guarantee, I believe their starting offensive lineman may be out for this game, but overall, what has Zach Wilson done in his career? What have they talked about out of anything else? It wasn't his football play, and you can do the research on that. But he has to play well. I don't think there's an option because we know the history with Darnold and Sanchez and Geno Smith getting punched in the jaw and Ryan Fitzpatrick and so many of those guys. But he's gonna have to play well. So I'll pick the Jets, and most likely that one's gonna be wrong. But I'm still going to pick it because I want to at least pick 1 pick that is absolutely insane and pull a Higgins.
Well, last week you did that and came up golden. Next game, huh?
Wait, which one was that crazy one last? I can't remember. Oh, the Jaguars.
Jaguars and the Eagles was the last one.
Okay.
This one was Jets and Steelers. All right, next game is the AFC battle between 2-1 teams, and hopefully it's a good one. You got Buffalo at Baltimore. Of course, Buffalo lost that thriller in Miami. It was just taxing for both teams. Baltimore defeated New England up there in Foxborough. So both are, really high up there in offensive categories. But Buffalo's good defensively. Trying to think during the run, they do fairly well stopping the run, but this is against Lamar Jackson. That's going to be very telling to see how they do against him. Injury report going on. You got Dawson Nix questionable with the back and hip injury. that could be really important for the Bills. Ed Oliver is questionable, the defensive tackle, as well as Gabe Davis. Both have ankle injuries. Davis, of course, is a receiver and a very good one. Jordan Phillips is out with a defense. He's a defensive tackle. He's out with a hamstring injury. Baltimore has Patrick McCarry. He's a guard. He'll be doubtful with the ankle injury. Justin Houston, the linebacker, doubtful with a groin injury. He's a veteran. He's been around a while. Those are really key injuries there for Baltimore. Baltimore's, they got it done against New England and other teams like that, but this Tennessee they lost against Miami but beat the Jets. This time you're facing Buffalo, who I know wants redemption, for the loss they had in Miami. They had some key mistakes in the game against the Dolphins, but I think they make it all up. I think Buffalo goes into Baltimore and wins. The only issue is, can they cover Mark Andrews, and stop Hollywood Brown? That's going to be the key. Wait, Hollywood Brown is with
the Cardinals.
That's what I thought.
Dude, no stress, dude. I nearly said the Miami Jets earlier, so don't feel bad.
I totally forgot.
Hey, it happens, man.
And it's amazing, though. I'll save myself here saying, without those name receivers, Lamar Jackson is still finding DeVarn Way with touchdowns. He's probably the only receiver that you can, key on. But it's amazing Lamar's doing what he's doing, being the MVP candidate that he is. These two are like the MVP candidates, Allen and Jackson. So I'm going to go with Buffalo in this game in Baltimore. What do you think?
It's not a rematch, but it kind of is, because the last time in a big moment, the Ravens and Bills played together. It was in the wild card division. It was wild card round. What is it? Or division round in 2021, back in January 2021, where they lost against Buffalo.
Yeah.
I'm picking the Ravens. I understand Buffalo has the better weapons, but I'll tell you, those defensive players that are out, Phillips and all those guys you talked about, Lamar Jackson is first in the National Football League with 10 touchdowns. You're top 12 in interceptions. You're second in the league with 78 for your QBR. You're averaging 7 touchdowns to 1 pick in the last 2 games, 536 passing yards in the last 2 games combined, over 250 passing yards. He's out to prove it. Now, again, do I think it's risky and smart? No, I don't think it's smart whatsoever. But you also got to remember, players have represented themselves in the past. How do you think Bobby Wagner got that contract? He represented himself. So I'm not saying it works out for everyone in the National Football League, but Lamar Jackson so far, betting on himself, is playing really well. The Baltimore Ravens in the first 3 games have scored a total of 103 points in the first 3 games. Breaking that down even more, 103 points. They're averaging almost 35 points a game, 34.3 points per game. That type of team is averaging that many points, and you can't stop them. They're not just on this hot streak. Lamar Jackson is not so just out to prove something. We understand the contract with Deshaun Watson was going to destroy everything. But now I don't agree that much with Shannon Sharp when it comes to football. They're saying this very well. How Lamar Jackson is playing very well as their quarterback, minimum 300 plus, just went up. This is the thing with the Ravens. Why are you not willing to pay Lamar Jackson if this is the case? You're costing yourself more money the longer you wait. Just when you have an issue with your car, the longer you wait, the more you're going to have to pay. The Ravens are going to have to break the bank if he continues this on. 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the season. You have, yes, I understand, like Andrews or the rookie. You don't necessarily have anything else outside of that in terms of the passing game. I don't know how they're doing it, but he's playing really, really well. But again, in the last 2 games, 42 points. Yes, it was a loss, but 42 points, 37 points. So you have 79 points combined in the last 2 games alone, almost averaging 36 points a game in the last 2 games. with who you have to throw to, with the 10 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, with his 749 pass attempts, with the second best QBR in the National Football League coming into going into finishing week 3. But I give him full credit without a doubt. I think the Ravens are going to win this game. I think with the defensive subtractions against Baltimore, it's going to feed Lamar Jackson to play even better. But I'll definitely pick the Ravens for that one. But honestly, I don't think I didn't suspect Lamar Jackson to play this well. But again, I pick James, Lamar Jackson, and the Ravens to win this game. Second in QBR, first in touchdowns, and I did not expect that so far with Lamar Jackson. I'll give him full credit. But again, the longer you wait, the more you have to pay. And this is really risky. Anything to his ankle or his foot is going to entirely mess up this thing. Because mind you, though, the offensive line is not what it used to be. So if he keeps running like he is, this really could be dangerous. But I give him credit. And he's passing really well. 72.4 completion percentage against Miami. 62% against New England this past week. 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. Ravens are winning this game.
Forgot to mention both our running quarterbacks along, with Allen. He's one of those dangerous quarterbacks. Like Jackson is run right into pot. Chargers and Texans will round out the early Sunday games. Chargers, of course, have so many injuries. Hilbert is going to play for sure. He's just got the ribs injuries. But Corey Lindsey, their center, is questionable with a knee. Not injury related somehow. Keenan Allen is out again with a hamstring injury. That just continues to be a problem for him. Darnold Parham Jr. is questionable with a hamstring injury. They're tight end. Of course, we know about Joey Bosa going on the IR. He'll be out a minimum 4 weeks. Sean Slater, of course, will be out the rest of the season with torn left biceps. Jalen Guyton, one of their other receivers, is out. Even with all that loss, I think the Chargers will still beat Houston. It's one of those games from last week. I know Chargers felt embarrassed in a way. Texans were in that game against Chicago. I'm going to go with the Chargers. What do you think, Chargers at Houston?
Dude, it's the Houston Texans. They're still a football team. Dude, I'm picking the Chargers, man. I understand last week was a flippin' crazy game. But to be honest, dude, how would you pick the Texans? Anyone in their right mind that knows even a little bit about football, Herbert or Mills? Like, I don't think that's an option, but I'm definitely gonna have to pick that though. But to Lou, I saw this breaking news. It's not even really breaking news. NFL is going to change their concussion protocol after what happened with Tua on Thursday.
That reminded me of Darnell Parham Jr. Remember last year he got concussed after landing on his head. I think it was against the Chiefs, I want to say on a Thursday night. But he had to be carted off and whatnot, and that was an ugly sight. So that Tua game reminded me slightly of that, speaking of the Chargers. The afternoon games. The first one is Arizona at Carolina. Both are 1-2. Carolina coming off the win against New Orleans. Arizona, of course, coming off the loss against Los Angeles, the Rams. This could be a real ugly game. Baker Mayfield, I know he has something to prove, but as you said last week, I don't think he's ever going to be anything good. Baker. Kyler Murray, he's trying to survive without DeAndre Hopkins. He's got a little more to go. Again, a lot of things I said last show, I really don't want to ever see again from him, but it just seems like he's tearing that franchise down just by himself. Uh, who knows what's going to happen in the future with Cliff Kingsbury?
Yeah.
Regardless, though, in this game, I'm going to go with Arizona. I just think they have more talent. Injury report wise, Chenault Jr. is questionable with a hamstring injury. He had a long touchdown last week. Rondell Moore is questionable with the same injury for Arizona. Matt Prater, the kicker for Arizona, is questionable. AJ Green is out with a knee injury. Rodney Hudson is questionable with a knee. JJ Watt is questionable with a calf. So it's a lot of losses there for Arizona, or maybe losses. Christian McCaffrey's on the injury report here with a questionable status with thigh injury. And that was bound to happen with Christian McCaffrey. But hopefully he plays and they show up just a bit. But I'm going to go Arizona in the ugly game in Carolina. What do you think, John?
This is not a good game, though, James. I think when really Texas, you freaking penalty. Sorry. I'll say Carolina or the Cardinals. It's just starting the game. Sorry, I apologize. Actually, I don't, but I did fit personal. I know Call of Duty is coming out in 4 weeks, so that could be a potential distraction for Kyler Murray, as there is. They just had to open beta, just closed for that. I mean, I'll have to pick Arizona, but it's not like the Cardinals are a playoff team. Like I said, he's self-destructing this team. He's not a leader.
Nope.
You pay the guy that much money as a franchise quarterback, and he's supposed to be the guy. He's going to lead you to the promised land, to the NFL playoffs, to the Super Bowl. The only Super Bowl he's going to lead you in is in Madden 23. I do not believe in Aaron Cardinals for the entire season. So for this game, I have to pick Arizona. I don't get it. Like, even with DeAndre Hopkins, they're going to miss the playoffs. Even when they had DeAndre Hopkins, James, the last 2 seasons, up until his injury last year, they dipped. So I think they're going to be that type of team, like you said. We've just seen the past 2 or 3 seasons where they're going to start off high in the first 5 to 6, 7 games. Then as you get closer and closer and closer and closer to the end of the season, you're going to see that dip in the offensive production. Obviously, after the Call of Duty comes out, you see the Cardinals not produce in the offense. And so I pick Arizona for this game, but it's not going to be necessarily anything flashy because you know what you're going to get from Kyler Murray. And honestly, if 2021, 2022 season isn't enough proof, I don't know what will. But for this game specifically, I'll pick Arizona.
All right, next game is New England at Green Bay. It's not as intriguing because Mac Jones is out for the Patriots. They're, of course, 1-2. Green Bay survived last week in Tampa Bay. They're 2-1. Their defense and special teams look better. Defense got the stops for them. And as I mentioned, without Jones, I think the Brian Hoyer is going to be the starting quarterback again for the Patriots. Lawrence Guy will be out with a shoulder injury. Adrian Phillips is questionable. Jacoby Myers, one of their receivers, is questionable with the knee injury. I think it's going to be a tough game for him. Probably the only injury status that I'm worried about with Green Bay is Jair Alexander, the corner. He has questionable with the groin injury. I think this is a game, though, the Packers look really good. It's almost going to be like the game against the Bears to me, where they're just going to run over them. Patriots might hang with them maybe for the first 5 minutes of the first quarter. But after that, Green Bay turns it on and everybody contributes. So I'm going with Green Bay over New England. What do you think?
Oh my God. It's 100% Green Bay. I think, obviously, even with Mac Jones play, in terms of what we talked about with Bill Belichick is being exposed. In 2020, your starter quarterback was going to be Jarrett Stidham. You made a trade for Cam Newton, which is unlike what Bill Belichick would do in the past because he panicked. So it happens when you had a guy like Brady, you pissed him off. You could have had a couple more Super Bowls. But I'm going to pick Green Bay in this game. I think with, you said Aaron Jones is, I believe, playing tomorrow, or no?
Yeah, Aaron Jones is playing.
So, okay, Aaron Jones is playing. That's all I have to say. Goodbye. It's in the show right there. The New England Patriots are going to lose another football game.
Yeah. Then we have a AFC West rivalry, Denver and the Raiders. Denver's 2-1. They came off that ugly comeback win against San Francisco in Mile High. The Raiders coming off comeback attempt short against the Titans in Tennessee. They're 0-3, last place in the West. Denver 2-1, of course, second in the AFC West. Looking at the injuries, Darius Phillips will be out the corner for the Broncos with the hamstring issue. Tim Patrick, of course, on the IR. And you could kind of tell the offense really needed him. Rakia Sign will be out for the Raiders. The corner, questionable with a knee injury, but I think he's going to be out or won't be as a factor. Foster Moreau, the backup tight end for the Raiders, will be out with a knee injury. Hunter Renfrow still not well from the concussion. He'll be held out like Tua should have been. They're going the right way with Renfrow here. I think the Raiders are, even though they really need him, John, but you can't really play them. It's not healthy. It's not good. With all that being said, this is a game where I think you have to have Devontae Adams and Carr hook up a lot. And you just have to keep feeding them. I know there were, people talking about that during the week, and they were asking Derek Carr why he hasn't done that. I think Carr said along the lines that, he wants to get everyone involved, not just Devontae, but when you pay someone that much money, you better get him the dang ball. And Waller just has to use two hands instead of one. he dropped 3 touchdowns and had a lot of tension on him on the 2-point conversion. That wasn't. See, John, every year since I was a kid, I'd always pick the Raiders to win and they would lose. So I'm going to reverse that like I did last year and pick Denver, hoping the Raiders win. So what do you think, Denver and the Raiders in Las Vegas?
What? You're picking the Broncos? Dude, I've had poops that are more productive than the Denver Broncos offense. I get what you're saying. But I am picking the Raiders. It's not like the Raiders are way up here and the Denver Broncos are way down here. But I think I've never seen, and this is the team I'm talking about, Denver Broncos, so much miscommunication, so much unproduction in the first 2 weeks. Last week, you scored 5 points in nearly 4 quarters of football. $240+ million to score 5 points. You and I could score 5 points for the Denver Broncos. This guy's supposed to lead you to a Super Bowl. He's not better than Mahomes or Herbert, maybe not even better than Carr. So, but no, honestly, it's not going to be a great game for Denver. I understand at some point some of it could change. This is not just some miscommunication or the offense taking a while to adjust with a new quarterback. We've seen teams that take a while to adjust, but you start to see some improvements. With the Denver Broncos for the first 3 weeks, we've seen no improvement beside the most consistent thing they've been doing is being inconsistent. That's exactly what's happening with the Denver Broncos. I'm picking the Raiders. I know it's that may trigger some people or someone in the streamer won't say James Gonzalez. I won't say James Gonzalez's name or anything to route him out here, but I'm picking the Raiders here. I just don't trust Wilson and the Broncos. I don't know what's going on. How do you score 5 points in a Sunday night football game? And then you win the game. Congrats. You scored nearly half of your season's points in Sunday Night Football with 12. I don't understand. I think Nathan Hackett's a hack, but I definitely have to pick the Raiders in this game.
All right, so let's go to the Sunday Night Football matchup, and we thought was going to be moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota. The Hurricane Ian has left devastation, but it's gone through and passed. But we want to think about those folks out there who has lost pretty much everything. And unfortunately, that happens in that area of that region of the country. So they're going to play in Tampa. Kansas City and Tampa Bay, both 2-1. I think it'd be both first place teams. Brady and Mahomes, the site of 2 Super Bowls ago. I think we all know what happened. Kansas City laid an egg. They got beat on the offensive line really bad. That was then. This is, excuse me, this is now. And I think Kansas City, though, wants some revenge from that, although they don't have Tyreek Hill. But this should be an interesting game. Of course, Harrison Butker is questionable with a left ankle injury, their kicker. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is questionable with the ab injury. Those are 2 key players there for me with the Chiefs. Julio Jones is questionable with his knee injury. Rashad Perriman is doubtful with his knee and hamstring. Russell Gage is also questionable with a hamstring. Same thing with Godwin. It's the same stuff that happened last week. Akeem Hicks is out with a foot. So you think about the offensive line not protecting Brady. That kind of showed there with that game against the Packers last week. But somehow they were able to make it a game. But remember, they only allowed 14 points. This time, though, I think Kansas City is going to run circles around them. Again, they want that revenge against the bowl loss. So I'm going to go with Kansas City and Tampa Bay. What do you think, John?
Have you not learned your lesson? Both freaking times! Thomas, Brady, Edward, Patrick Jr. Well, he's going to win this game. He's going to lose something else this offseason, which is a ring. Not a Super Bowl ring, but a marriage ring because they're getting divorced. Why? Yeah. Oh, why? 22 years and still do I McFly? Are you there? Are we not on the same page? How after all this time? First of all, I do want to just, why they're still playing in Florida? Even if it's somehow passed, you want to be safe because you're about player safety. You're telling me you're betting against Thomas, Brady, Edward, Patrick Jr., James Gonzalez, don't know your middle name, Gonzalez. You're telling me you're betting against Brady. Why? Like, it's not necessarily a bad take. After so many years of 7 Super Bowl rings, and yes, I'll admit, just because I'm going on this stupid rant, Tom Brady has not played that well this year. And that defense has bailed him out. And so I think in this game, you're going to have to get to Patrick Mahomes real early. Because as you saw at halftime against the Colts, you saw Bieniemy. You saw Patrick Mahomes getting into it, which is nothing out of the ordinary. I don't know why people are making something out of literally nothing. But I'm picking the Bucs to win. But again, I think you said Fournette is or isn't playing.
And I forgot, John, last year they ran circles around the Bucs, got their revenge, but I think they're going to do it again. Look, I might be concussed every time picking against Brady, and I pay for it a lot. But I don't know. I just have that feeling regular season games, I think Kansas City always wins those against Brady. But when it comes down to playoffs or Super Bowls, it's somehow different.
Let's go! Sorry, Texas game.
I know I'm going to be like that in a couple of hours with the Trojans hosting the Sun Devils. And remember, Sun Devils, going back to former NFL coach Herman Edwards, was fired in the end zone by the AD.
Oh, my God.
After the game.
Brutal.
Literally, he's running off the field with the sheriff, and the AD calls him over, and there's a video of it. And I just thought
they could have been more professional about it. You don't do it right on the field, though. That's not cool.
Well, just like another former NFL coach, Lane Kiffin was fired at the airport
Ooh,
in Arizona, and they didn't allow him to fly back to Los Angeles as a USC coach. So it's funny how those two coaches, former NFL coaches, intertwined there and were fired in odd ways. The Monday night game, and it has a lot of intriguing parts, but a lot of those intriguing parts could go wrong. It's the LA Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, the Niners coming off that ugly loss. They're 1-2. The Rams coming off the somewhat comfortable win in Arizona against the Cardinals. I feel like the Rams will win, but it won't be a pretty game. It never is. You always have to worry about the San Francisco defense, Stafford, and making Stafford throw picks. The thing is, with the 49ers, Javon Kinlaw is questionable with a foot injury. Those are big players. End, come back at the end of the season, but he's out with that ankle injury. He got rolled upon. For that case, I would guess the defense is going to have a field day without Edward Williams out there on the line for San Francisco. So I'm with Rams. It won't be NFC West battle between the Rams. John.
Hey, you're kind of my end. My bad.
I know.
It's the Rams. Like I get Matthew Stafford is still having that elbow issue, and you know that can't be taken lightly in any way, shape, or form. But it's the Niners. It's Jimmy G. Trey Lance is out for the season. You Jimmy G and that I don't read lips that great. But what we're seeing, Jimmy G literally said, and I caught it on video, your play calling sucks, man.
Oh, yeah.
And if that's the case, clearly anybody can see it as clear as day. You're telling me Jimmy G frustrated, potentially still not fully 100% and not practicing with the number one guys, which is not an excuse because you had the whole offseason to do that, even if you weren't going to be the number one guy. Matthew Stafford with Kupp and Robinson, or Jimmy G being pissed off and frustrated at Kyle Shanahan? Because we know at some point Kyle Shanahan is definitely 100% going to be on the hot seat, but I'll definitely pick the Rams to win this game for sure.
It's amazing why Jimmy G says, your play calling sucks to whomever. Was it the offensive coordinator, or did he say it to Kyle Shanahan?
I'm assuming he was talking to Shanahan because he calls a lot of the plays. But I could be wrong, but I just assumed he was talking about Kyle Shanahan.
So you can't really run plays when you step out of the end zone for a safety, though. like Jimmy G did.
He was doing his best Dan Orlovsky impression, so
Yeah.
That's why. And see Dan Orlovsky's tweet. He finally experienced freedom. He doesn't have to be the guy known about it anymore. Now it's Jimmy G. He got free, man. He got his get out of jail free card, pretty much.
And then there was another get out of jail free card with Mark Sanchez, as we had the butt punt in Miami. We'll see what else happens with butts.
Oh my god, it's so funny.
We'll see what else happens involving a butt or a safety this week. But whoa. John, we went through protection. Protection is always good with a butt and a safety. We went through all the injury reports. The news, of course, with Tua. Of course, again, it's something that can happen. He shouldn't have played, of course, and we'll wonder about next week if he's going to play or not. I don't think he should, honestly. It would save some face in that Miami organization that's kind of they've had a bad go at it as of late. And imagine if they had Deshaun Watson, it'd be even worse. Anyway, John, go ahead, John.
No, you're good. Sorry. Oh no, sorry. You're good. Sorry.
It's been a great show, John. Episode 7 already. We'll be back, I think, on Monday with episode 8, recapping the Sunday games and I guess doing a little preview of Monday Night Football, even though we did. But if anything else changes, like Jimmy G, has any more statements, we'll find them out. My final thoughts is if our player's concussed, don't just assume he's okay. Don't put him back in the game. And then don't have him play the next game, which is 4 days. Mm-hmm. And get rid of Thursday Night Football. I know Amazon paid however much billion for that package, but get rid of Thursday Night Football. It needs to go away. If you really care about player safety, John, in the NFL or whomever, you get rid of Thursday Night Football.
No, you
That's
don't.
what I'm.
What?
I know. I'm just worried about players playing like that right away on Thursdays. After I had the grueling game, in Miami with the Heat, and then having the way that Tua got hurt again and concussed again. It always reminds me of Steve Young and Troy Aikman, how they got concussed a lot and they had to retire fairly early. Well, not Young, but Aikman early in their careers. Mm. I think they should get rid of Thursday Night Football, honestly. Or have Friday Night Football. Or Saturday Night Football. I don't know. But just get rid of early games. Have everything Sunday and Monday, honestly. That's my final thought, John. What's yours?
Honestly, I think if you I may disagree on the Thursday Night Football thing, but I think also you either give an additional bye week, or if you're going to do Thursday Night Football, give it to a team each week that just had their bye week, so you don't run into this issue. Because at some point, I do agree, you have to address the injuries, man. Because I think with the update in the concussion protocol, I sure hope it's not super vague, because with the Deshaun Watson ruling, all you had was he violated the NFL's personal conduct policy. Well, what in anyone's green earth does that mean? What personal conduct are we talking about? Because there's one policy for everything when a player violates it. Now, for the concussion, what are you going to do now? Are you going to be more strict about it? Or is it going to be super vague like the NFL's personal conduct policy? So I definitely think that's the question for me. There's definitely a good show to have you on. I can't believe that I potentially said the Miami Jets earlier, but no, it's a good show, and just happy to be doing Punt Off.
Yes. So let's tell everyone to punt off, shall we?
Christy Wilson, you can punt off.
James Gonzalez, she has a comment. Go ahead, put it on.
You definitely, James Gonzalez. Wait, what are you saying, James? What?
Oh, she had a comment?
No, that was the Cowboys. No, I was just telling her.
Oh, yeah. Owe John. You're gonna owe John a gift basket?
A gift basket, because I picked your Dallas Cowboys. So get that on recording. But you, James, can punt off, and I can punt off, and we will see y'all Monday.